a fall. I mean, and then the cymbals went crashing, and music was going all over into the audience and shit. Oops.
No, it's cool.
Oh yeah, you're gonna have to do a lot of
little B-roll action.
Sorry about that. There's gonna be some of the beeps. Remember that time we beeped, and then the beep.
Well, we're sitting here with Donny Tesso, the one and only Donny Tesso. We're here at Folklore Recording Studio, which is an incredible facility, and we're so thankful for them for letting us hang out in here today. Thank you so much.
Yep, heck yeah.
And
Lance is the main guy.
Yeah, thank you, Lance. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, we just kind of got familiar this morning. I can't believe what a great space this is, and we've got a lot of your family here. Some
of my offspring.
Yeah.
Bass offspring.
Yeah, some of your bass spring.
There you go. A new word we just came up with.
Yeah, bass spring.
In the bass community.
There you go. Yeah. How you doing today, Donny?
Doing good.
Yeah.
Doing good, Justin. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Yeah. What's a day in the life of Donny Tesso? If you can even imagine.
It's so exciting. No, just kidding. When I wake up, let me see here, do my little exercise routine, grind my coffee beans. Gotta grind the beans, and the aroma gets me going. Do my that's kind of my routine. Is just basically a little stretching. You do the coffee thing, and then probably the first thing I do is get to my workstation or my desk in my man cave, and I've got all my stuff. I got my keyboard, I got my iPads and stuff. And usually what I'll do literally is just say, what do I got to do today? What charts do I have to look at? What do I have to make out? Emails, business stuff, that it's usually business stuff, answering emails, putting stuff out there. So and then come afternoon, if I'm available, I'll take a break, go ride my bike or something like that. Next thing you know, it's 5 o'clock already. I mean, where did the day go? And then I got to go get ready for a gig. Yeah. Sometimes, but it's kind of the same thing every day, at least in the morning.
At least in the morning. Yeah. That's something that people may or may not think about as an artist. Your schedule isn't the same every day.
Yeah.
It sort of depends on the gigs. It depends on what's happening. But it's nice to have some consistency.
I do like that. It's like we talked earlier. I was looking at some music charts very early this morning, like around 7:30, because the gig coming up is a little bit more challenging because of the reading involved. And so there I was trying to get a jump start, I guess, if you can call it.
Sure.
And I'm trying to decide, do I want to read this chart or do I want to make my own? Because it had a lot of codas and DSs and double this, and it was a couple of those pieces were a little challenging, where you got to flip back and forth.
Roadmap wise.
Yes.
Yeah, I understand. So. Yeah, that's a choice you have to make when you're writing out a chart. So are you going to write out your own charts for that?
I'm going to write some. I've already determined I'm going to write some out. Some of them are decent enough to where when I heard the MP3s, they matched up. Hopefully they perform it the way the MP3 is, because that's how the chart was. Mm-hmm. So I'll leave the good clean charts. I'll read those, and then I'll make my own chart on the ones that I kind of like. I may miss the DS. I'm just going to make it a longer chart instead of worrying about a DS.
Yeah.
Or a double coda or something crazy,
Totally. I just did a recording session for someone, and I wrote out all the charts for myself. Mm-hmm. And I didn't use any repeat systems at all. I just
made it a longer.
Read start to finish.
Read it down.
Yeah. Literally nothing repeated.
Right.
Yeah. Because I was able to do it in the computer, so I was able to use my Bluetooth foot switch to turn the pages in the studio and just read it down. And so I know what you mean. On the gig, sometimes you want to be able to have a chart that's 1 or 2 pages, so you might use more repeat systems.
Well, like you just said, even because I use the little Bluetooth foot switch, there's I've been on some gigs where I'm like tap dancing basically because of going back and forth, like a five page. I remember there was one artist, Nelson Rangel, very famous saxophonist.
Yeah, we have a link in the notes.
Yeah, and one of his charts was at least 5 pages. So it was a lot of tapping to go back to the coda, the DS, and then oh gosh, I was literally tap dancing. I should have just got a piece of paper and spread it out like we talked earlier, with
Sure.
plexiglass or something. It would have made it easier to do like, oh, they're right here instead of going. Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
technology is cool, but that's a situation where maybe you should have done it old fashioned.
It depends on the situation, I've accidentally hit the back button instead of the forward button. But,
yeah.
Okay, here we are.
and the music doesn't stop. The band keeps on going, and you're going, oh, where am I? Oh gosh. Okay. Yeah, that happens.
Yeah. Do you spend a lot of time practicing bass, or just mostly learning tunes and playing? And
mostly learning tunes, Justin. I mean, practice is kind of a. I should, being that I teach also. I feel like I should practice more, but I've always been that guy that's kind of. I get bored. I get bored practicing. Maybe I don't practice the right stuff, but after 50 years, I should know this. But do I practice a lot? No. But do I play my bass a lot? Yes.
Sure.
Learning stuff, going over stuff, composing. I'm, trying to finish a record. Hopefully this year I can finish my solo CD. So yeah, I don't practice as much, but I play a lot. Makes sense?
It makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah.
And there's, every musical situation has its own requirements, and you're meeting those requirements as they come in. And
that's kind of how it is. I think we parallel each other because you work with other people, and I think we understand how our day can be different, the gigs can be different, and each entity or each band or each artist has their own things that they do it their way, and you kind of follow them.
That's right.
You learn what they don't like you to do.
That's right.
Learn what they want you to do.
Yeah.
Stay out of the way, blah blah blah. But it's crazy. It's crazy.
We are support musicians.
Yeah.
That's the life we live.
It's play for the song.
Play for the song.
Yeah. I mean, we don't have to show off. I can't.
Oh,
so
come on.
I would like to show off like Justin can. We'll get into that.
Oh my goodness. Right. Wow. So much to talk about with you. I'm so curious about your life and your experience. One of your first gigging experiences was playing in your dad's band, Freddie, Tesso, and the Desperados.
Yes, sir.
Oh my gosh.
Yeehaw.
That's incredible. You got to be in a band with your dad.
Yeah. Gosh, my first gigs with my dad, I was probably 11, something like that, 10, 11, doing like church benefits. I wasn't doing the bars yet, but it was like a lot of country music, a little bit of Spanish stuff, mostly country. My dad was a great singer, Hispanic country guy, back in the day, and his band was pretty popular in Yuma, Arizona, my hometown, and it was my first introduction into what I'll be doing, like I still do, on the stage. My dad was the kind of guy give you the stink eye if you messed up, so I had to be on my toes, but it was a great experience, and it just led me to what I'm doing now. And my dad was a good boss. He was he was stern but he always surrounded himself with good musicians, and I really appreciated that. I didn't know it at the time, but I think it made my job easier because I didn't hear crazy stuff going around me. I heard the right stuff, right chords and right strums and right drumming, at a young age. So I'm lucky. I was lucky, I think.
Sounds like you heard a lot of the right stuff, and maybe you got to not hear some of the bad stuff too.
Yeah, that came later.
But when it came
not
later,
not much later.
but maybe when it came later, you were like, maybe this isn't normal.
Right. No, that I think that's
Because your dad,
exactly
working with your dad, kind of.
learning the structure, how things, when it was somebody was out of tune or something. My dad was pretty good about that. Hey, check your tuning. Uh, and then when I got into like high school, I think it's being with my dad set me up for high school in the stuff I did in high school to start noticing even more and about myself, by the way, too. Am I in time? Am I in tune? Am I doing the right feel for the song? Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
So you've been thinking about that stuff for your whole life.
Yeah,
That's so
exactly.
great,
Yeah, well, I'm a copier. When you think about it, I mean, I grew up at a time, and in my professional career was mostly copying stuff. If you're going to be on the road playing clubs in the early '80s, you're learning all the Cool in the Gang songs. You're learning, Prince. You're learning whoever's the flavor of the month is. You're learning those songs, but you're copying the bass line. So you're not creating, you're copying. So I mean that I come sort of from a different point of view than the younger people, the millennials, because they didn't have to go through that. They can just start creating. For me, it was copying, but after copying so many bass parts, you start to kind of like borrow from them and inject them into your own style when it comes down to when you can create, such as recordings.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's a language, it's
Yeah.
speaking the
Mm-hmm.
language.
Mm-hmm.
You you learn a word, you learn a phrase, and then next thing you know, you're expressing yourself and you're
Or
communicating.
borrowing from a phrase that
Hmm.
somebody else created,
Yeah.
taking from it. I think I'm a perfect example of copying everything from Motown to Earth, Wind, and Fire to the country I had to learn with my dad, learning the dialect of this is what those country guys do. They don't do what James Brown's guy did do. Excuse me. I learned early on. I think the genres and the articulations. I
Hmm.
think
Hmm.
early on to help me what I do now. I think that's part of what's helped me do what I do now is this, the background.
Hmm.
I'm just fortunate because I'm old enough to experience all that.
Hmm.
And these days, a young person like yourself or the millennial just couldn't experience some of the things that I did because they're just not there.
Hmm.
I'm just lucky.
Hmm.
That's how I see it.
Hmm. Yeah, and spending time with those musical dialects.
Right, right.
Yeah,
Plenty of them.
yeah,
Spanish stuff.
yeah,
And there's as different forms of Latin. The cumbia, Afro-Cuban, tropical, regional,
yeah. Norteño.
Tejano,
Yeah.
Norteño.
Hmm.
That's just the subgenres of a genre.
Hmm.
Then you have classic rock, hard rock, metal. Man, yeah,
Doom, rock, and stoner metal.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And they all have a certain thing that you do,
yeah,
or the kind of bass you play. You play with the pick, whatever.
yeah,
So yeah. Hmm. Hmm.
yeah. Yeah, I kind of want to keep going with your story. Back in the day, you've been studying musical dialects. We'll get into some of your career highlights.
Okay.
Um, One thing you did, after high school, you joined the group Up With People, and you went on the road for a year.
Hmm.
And not only that, but as a bass player,
Hmm.
and they gave you a full scholarship. So
That's
that's incredible.
yeah, it really was. Up with People organization actually originated like in the mid '60s,
Okay.
and I think being from Arizona, Yuma was part of my. It was more available to me. I was more available to Up with People, and let me explain. the home base for Up With People was Tucson, Arizona, 240 miles away from my hometown. But the organization was catching steam in the 60s and 70s, traveling the world, spreading good news. It wasn't a church type thing. It was just basically a bunch of kids from around the world assembling in Tucson and then running a show for 90 minutes or 120 minutes and performing in the world, and I was just one of the bass players selected to tour in one of the groups. There was, in my year, there was 5 casts of 120 people from all over the world. And so my cast, which was cast A, heck, man, I still stay in touch with people from Sweden and Netherlands, Canada, South America, not to mention most of the United States. That was a great experience. Playing bass in front of 119 people, the pressure of it, I had to memorize it. I didn't want to read, so I somehow was able to memorize back then when my mind was not so occupied. But it was another form of launching me into what I do now. Sort of living out of a suitcase, traveling on the buses, trying to get along with people from different countries. Some of them didn't speak very good English. We stayed in houses. We would go to Mexico City or whatever, and we didn't stay in hotel rooms. We stayed in homes. So you show up to your city, Guadalajara or whatever, and then you're in your bus, and there's all the people, the host families, and they got your name up there, Don Tesso, and you go to them and they say welcome, and you go to their house and you spend some time with them, you eat dinner with them, they take you to your rehearsals, they take you to your shows. Every city was that, man, a different family. That alone is so crazy. Poor families, rich families, cool families, weird families. But it was a great experience, and I met a lot of great people, and I learned a lot from that. And it set me on my course for what I do now.
Yeah. Because after that, you went on the road for a while with the band. Unity. What a great band name.
Yeah, some other bands have taken that name. We were just 4 guys initially from Yuma, Arizona.
All guys from Yuma.
All from Yuma. Fantastic musicians. That little town of Yuma, Justin, is like a mecca. Has always been a mecca for talent. I don't know. Maybe there's other cities like that, but that little town to this day kicks them out. Like, I'm talking talented musicians, man. I don't know if it's in the water or the 130 degrees summers or whatever it is, but yeah, being on the road with those 4 guys initially, we were like brothers, we were like family, man, but we also had to work. We used to have to look at Billboard magazine, because obviously no social media, no iPads and all that, is we would get a Billboard magazine and then look at the top 40. So look, guys, we're Boise next. We got to learn these songs. That's number 1. And then your agents a lot of times just say, okay, you guys, we need you to stay current, because we worked with booking agents, and they would say you need to play at least the top 10. So every week or so you're learning different songs because the charts change. They wanted us to stay current with like pop radio, dance stuff, and so that was a great experience for the years that I did it. A lot of cities, a lot of great times, a lot of hard times, but it was wonderful,
And so growing up playing gigs already as a kid, and then joining up with people, going on the road, staying with families, a whole lesson in humanity, and also playing bass, and then going on the road with band after that with booking agents, who care about what you're doing and are like, you guys need to learn these current pop songs.
Absolutely.
And you guys staying current with that. That is just super incredible. Fast forward a little bit, you ended up in Las Vegas, Nevada. And I don't know how many years you were there, but that's got to be a whole scene trying to be.
Man, do we have enough time?
I don't know if we have enough time in this episode.
No.
You know, and what year are we talking about now?
Well, my Vegas years are 84 to 88.
84 to 88.
So, you know, 4.5, whatever it was, 4 years.
That's a good stretch of time.
It was enough time to figure a lot of things out.
Of course.
About my future. It was the mid 80s, which was insane. A lot of the stuff that was happening in the 80s, you know,
a lot of money, a lot of
money, a lot of cocaine, a lot of that stuff, you know,
a lot of partying
in the entertainment capital of the world.
Yeah.
So, but through all that, I somehow lived through it. I learned a lot, even more from the experiences of, you know, my dad's band, Up With People, high school jazz band, the Unity years. Then I get to where I'm living in the entertainment capital of the world, and it was a dog eat dog, man. I mean, to get the gigs, you or your band had to be good, be versatile, look good, you know, be on time, that kind of stuff. I learned a lot about that, you know, the business, the show business of the entertainment business. Prior to that, I did entertainment, but this was more show business. You know, it's the atmosphere of big stages, big lights. And even if it was just lounge work, you still had to be on your toes. Man, there were so many bands. You could go to the Riviera, you could go to the Caesar's Palace, and these bands are like kicking butt, Justin. They're like, wow. So I found myself, I gotta be as good as these guys. And I continued to work on my craft and stayed in shape. You know, I was like 180 pounds. I was like a little guy, skinny, but you know, I was young too. But it was one of the best things I ever done. My 4.5 years there, because I learned another side of things that I'd never learned before. That was my first recording experience, you know, working in a studio. And hearing myself in the studio the first time with headphones on, I was going, oh my God, I don't like the way I sound. You know?
Yeah, right.
Because it's so like clean.
It's so intimate.
And I'm going, I could hear my fingers touching the strings. Is this right? Are they hearing that? But, you know, I learned a lot, man, you know, and I learned a lot of what to do, and I learned a lot of what not to do.
Well, let me ask you, when you were in Vegas and like you showed up into town and you thought to yourself, okay, I want to be a working musician. Did you try to network as an individual, or did you try to join a band? How did that work for you?
Well, you know what?
I mean, was it with a little of both?
Well, a little bit of both, but at the time at that time, I had only been married a couple of years, small children. So there was that, you know, 23-year-old guy trying to raise a family and play music. And, geez, I had to think of myself, but at the same time, thinking of myself meant getting into an organization. So for me, when I would answer an ad in the newspaper under the classifieds, you know, musicians, it was like mostly, you know, looking for a bass player for this, blah, blah, blah. For me, it was like when I answered an ad in the paper and went to audition, I literally I got to go in there with the thought of, I have to get this gig. And, you know, sometimes they would tell you, here's 5 songs over the phone, by the way. We're going to audition you with these 5 songs. Or you just show up and then they audition you on the spot.
And so this is before the internet.
Yeah.
This is before cell phones.
Absolutely, man.
So you couldn't just go online and like, oh, let me learn this song in my car real quick. You had to somehow go get the record or find out
at that time a cassette.
A cassette, okay. But yeah, that's so
rewind it, rewind. What was that part?
Yeah.
You know, oh man.
Before
but
the
it's what we did.
age. Yeah.
It's what we did then.
Right.
You know, and when I was a kid, it was the record. Pick the needle up and pick it up. That's how we learned stuff. There wasn't nothing, you know, YouTube or videos. And so what?
So newspaper classifieds. That was the thing for you.
I got a house gig for about a year and a half from the classifieds.
Wow.
And they were looking it was literally like, you know, working band, you know, looking for bassist 6 nights a week. I can't remember exactly everything. And I want to say it said variety or pop or something like that. And I went to audition, got the gig, and it lasted for like a year and a half in one casino.
You just never
So I was pretty lucky, you know, a good steady paycheck. It was a good band. I learned a lot from the leader about how to entertain, because that was Vegas. He came from Hawaii, so he had to entertain people, you know, the tourists in Hawaii. And here I am learning from him, and I learned a lot of his leadership skills. His name was Al Seabay, a great performer, and I think he's still there in Vegas to this day, and he's got to be in his 70s. But you know, yeah, I had to go in there in my Vegas years, basically working for somebody else. But at the same time, I'm still learning things, so it was kind of for me too. But my initial plan was get into working situations.
Of course.
And that was answering the ads and then going audition and winning the audition.
Yeah.
And I never lost an audition somehow. You know, I guess I was just either good enough or they liked the way I look or something. The one band was a Hawaiian band. It was called Diamond Head. They said, we you look Hawaiian. You want to join our band? And I did. And it worked out, but maybe it was because I looked Hawaiian. I don't know. You
know. What about the Vegas situation was really good for you, and why do you think you didn't stay? Or
well, you know, that's pretty easy. I mean, I think if you go to Vegas, I'll use myself. When you think Vegas, you think I'm going to make it big. But nobody makes it big from Vegas. When you really think about it, who from Vegas has made it big? Not too many. But I just went in there with stars in my eyes and quickly learned that that's not how it's going to go. But if you want to work, then you can find work here, learn, make some decent money. We got paid pretty good. The industry was all about live music, man.
Yeah,
there was no 80s, DJs anywhere. You know, it was live music, and
people
we played.
Partied back then.
Oh God, dude!
People went out.
People went out.
People went out.
Now Vegas is a little different because, you know, like one of the gigs, I think it was the Frontier. Oh gosh, it might have been the Stardust. One of the gigs was 12 midnight to 6 a.m. Yes. So there you are at 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, and then you get out of your gig and people are jogging going home, you know, and you're going like, I'm gonna go home and go sleep.
Yeah.
You know, but
6-hour gig.
Yeah, 6 hour, and there were 45 minutes, 15-minute breaks, and they're watching.
No way.
Man, that was tough.
Wow.
That was tough.
These days, I'm just gonna get on my little box for a second. These days, you can't even get a venue to notice to turn the house music off. Donnie's talking about venues watching the clock.
Oh yeah.
Making sure that you don't take too long of a break. You know, it just mattered so much more.
Exactly.
It just mattered so much more.
You know,
in certain ways.
But you know, maintaining my life there in Vegas at that age, you know, I ran into some crazy stuff. Did some crazy stuff that I shouldn't have done, but I think the good Lord was watching over me. It's time to leave. I think it's time for you to leave I think it's time for you to go and get away from some of the stuff that was going on. You mentioned all the 80s crazy stuff. And
Yeah,
I
all
think
the
it was just God's
temptations
way
are
of
right
telling me,
there.
bro, it's time for you to go.
Yeah.
And my association with New Mexico is going back to Unity, traveling through New Mexico, Roswell, Gallup, Grants, Albuquerque. I met my wife, she's from Grants. So I'm kind of going, I think New Mexico was calling me.
Oh wow.
I just felt like, I had buddies in Albuquerque. So like, I can't move to a small city. I can move to Albuquerque. It's the big city,
Right.
and I made the move I got here in February of 88.
In 88.
In February of 88.
Wow.
And the rest is downhill from there, man.
Donny Tesso, man. Well, that's like the short version of your history.
It's the short, when you're this age, bro, you got a lot to tell, man. It's just the way it is, it's just, yeah, a lot. There's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell us about this record you got coming up. Your solo record. I can't believe it. I'm so excited.
Well, Justin, I hear your stuff. You create. I love what you do. Your stuff sounds like you, and I think that's ultimately what we want, I guess, right? So I think I've been writing songs all my life, melodies, chord progressions that we favor, certain bands that we listen to, and how they arrange. I think that it just came to a hilt probably, some 25 years ago. I started getting, what, this is what I really like. I need to start writing. And I started writing. I remember I got a keyboard that could sequence. My first keyboard that could sequence songs or patterns got me started, where I
That's
could
right.
actually save something.
You could save something.
Right.
Before we had computers.
Oh yeah, bro.
Before we had
Yeah.
DAWs, before we had DAWs, we had you
I
could
was
get
lucky.
a keyboard that you could record a performance,
Yeah.
and then you could layer stuff on top of it.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
the sequencer. Anyways, go
Exactly.
ahead.
Well,
Yeah.
that's
Just for
that's
the
the
young
thing.
kids.
Oh yeah, man. I wish I would have had the technology, the computers and stuff,
Yeah.
but we didn't. So that's how I started archiving, archiving progressions, archiving melodies, and then I started as the equipment got better. Like maybe I'm talking about the late '90s, early 2000s, where I was able to do even more archiving, better quality, and then maybe it hit me maybe about 20, 15 years ago. You need to restart recording stuff, and I started actually making songs out of all those pieces that I had archived all those years, actually putting them together. And why? Well, you know what? I think it's something that I needed to do for myself. I don't think I'm going to win a Grammy, but maybe I could. But you got to get it done, right? You got to put it out there. So fast forward to last year, I put out a single called "Chasing Dreams," and it's my composition. Got a lot of good response from it, and it kind of gave me more momentum to, like, man, you got to finish this. People are telling me, finish it, we want to hear more, and I'm going, oh, well, that's not that easy. I got to come up with stuff, but the solo CD is for me. It's personal. It's gonna be a collection of my life in music.
Wow.
And maybe I might do a cover tune here and there, but I think most of it's gonna be my compositions. And I get inspired by stuff. I wrote a song called "When Giants Fall." Two of my good friends, one of my friends from Up With People, and a friend here in Albuquerque. Craig was 6'9", and the other gentleman was 6'7". They're tall, and they both passed away in about 2 weeks from each other. And I then when giants fall, I wrote a song, but it was because of the death of those two giants. So I get inspired by grandkids and cats and dogs, and and when the one kitty died, several years ago, I wrote a little piece. I might finish it, but it's from I get inspired by a lot of stuff. So hopefully that's a good answer.
Yeah. What's an album? Like, is it a
10, 12 songs?
10, 12 songs?
Collection, a body of work, and I'm going to hire
10, 12
people
songs.
that I feel can bring the songs to life, which what I did with Chasing Dreams. I had Paul Palmer on drums. I had Lee Taylor do the sax. I had Nick Fowler on guitar. I had
Shout out to those guys.
Oh yeah, Steve Fig, Steve Figueroa.
Shout out to Steve. Yeah,
all these guys. These guys are the upper echelon, man. And for me, I'm not gonna go play. Yeah, the demo was me playing the keyboards and the bass and the drum track, but I said no. I gotta bring in cats that are gonna bring this to life, make it breathe fire. And guess what? They sure did. They sure did.
Exciting.
So I want to do it. I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
But there's the costs.
Yeah.
Studio time.
Studio time.
It's not free. You got to pay your guys.
Yeah.
They don't want money, but I feel like I got to pay them for their time.
Sure.
And I do, and I will.
It's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
It's the right thing to do.
And then promotion. You've worked with artists that or you're on the radio, so to work with those artists, that artist has to pay a promoter to get on satellite radio, thousands of dollars, at the hopes of getting airplay. So it's a crazy business, man. But do I want to do I want to hire a radio promoter and pay him $1,000 for a dice roll, or do I just put it out and put it on social media, put it on Spotify, put it on all the outlets, and see what happens? But I want to do it. I'm going to do it, and I'm inspired, and I'm going to finish my record, and hopefully this year.
Wow. Well,
help me out.
Yeah, we can't wait to hear it. It's going to be great.
I think so.
Excited
I think
about
so. It's the bass doing the melodies for the most part, and my weird way of thinking of progressions and how songs should be.
I record a lot of multiple bass stuff too. Do you EQ the bass differently when you're going to record like a lead bass?
Yes, bro, that's a great question. On Chasing Dreams, I used the main bass line, the support line was it wasn't this one. I don't think it was a jazz bass with flat wound strings. And it kind of, how flat wound strings are. They're a little thuddy, and they're kind of full sounding. So I used that, and I palm muted a lot. I used that for the support bass. Then I had that Sukop bass there for the lead, not the Ken Smith, the Sukop.
Oh, okay.
And that's tuned piccolo. That's tuned EADGC to do the upper register. Bing, 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 bing. Yeah.
This one.
That one. That is the bass that did the lead line. And so why piccolo? Why the high C? Well, I just felt I felt playing
makes sense.
The higher notes here as opposed to here with a regular G string.
Right.
I just felt that I could express myself better.
Well, if you have the instrument, it's perfect for that.
Yep.
It's meant for that.
Yeah, and that was the idea. So that the answer to the question is, if I'm going to be like you do, I think you probably do the same. Like, you're going to use one bass for this and maybe the upright for the other.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or maybe the bow.
Or keyboard bass. Or maybe a keyboard bass underneath it.
Yeah.
That's our call.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bass, some kind of bass. A bunch of bass.
A bunch of bass. We got a bunch of basses here.
Oh, there's too many, bro.
Should we check out some of your basses? You brought. Oh man, Donny brought like a bunch of like dope basses.
I've been, this is my Tesso signature bass that was made by Pat Wilkins, my buddy in Van Nuys, California. I had him. I'm so lucky, fortunate to have these, and they call them endorsement deals. They're just relationships with companies. But Pat Wilkins took me on 12 years ago and said, "Hey man, I want to join my team. Help me promote my stuff, and I'll help you." Blah 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 blah. and he builds. And he said, "What do you want?" And I said, "I want somebody to build a bass patterned after this one,
modeled after this,
because this is a 1975 jazz. That's almost 13 pounds."
Yeah.
And I said,
"That's a serious instrument,
and that has a lot of history, bro. I got that when I was in high school."
Dang.
And so I told Pat I need a copy of that bass. So he did his work, maple, ash, 70 spacing on the pickups, maple neck. It doesn't have the squares and stuff because that's an even more cost. He built this for me.
Mm-hmm.
The skinny, you know how jazz bass have a skinny neck. And this bass sounds a lot like that bass. And that was the whole idea, but it's like 8 pounds. Mm-hmm. And that's 12.5. So I'm going like, this is easier to play, Pat. I need something lighter so I can, actually tolerate a gig. But that was the idea behind this bass.
Nice.
From that bass here.
That's wonderful.
So, yeah,
it's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Really great. What an honor to have a bass made for you with your name on it.
Yeah, it's nuts. I mean, somebody could actually contact Pat Wilkins and he'll build you. Can you build one of those Donny Tesso things? And he'll do it. He'll do it. He won't do it for free, but he'll do it. And he did a great job with this. I'm so happy with it. Because I didn't want to take this anywhere because it's got some value.
It's kind of a lead sled.
Yeah, very much.
In a good way. But
yeah, in a good way.
I can see like hanging out in the studio with it or something.
Yes,
like that,
that comes out in the studio or it comes out for special occasions.
Yeah. And I play a Fender bass too, so my bass ain't no slouch either. But
was it that white one, the
Fender 5-string jazz?
Yeah, they're hey man, they're pieces of work.
It's not super light. It's not super heavy. It just feels like a Fender bass. I guess
right.
Not as heavy as that one.
Yeah, that's
that one's epic.
That's why this one. Yeah, this one's not heavy, not as heavy. It's like 8.5 pounds.
Nice.
And
wow.
Really it's a satin finish. It does. Oh, sorry, it doesn't have the gloss on it because I didn't want the gloss.
I like that bridge.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
The hip shot bridge.
It's beautiful.
And
nice little tone knob.
Yeah, man.
Just the basic.
He did his. Pat Wilkins does that for the stars, man. He makes stuff for Peter Cetera. I mean, it's people go to Pat Wilkins for custom work. And he did this for me, and I'm happy. Got the flat wound strings on it.
Nice flat wounds. Those are great. What kind are those?
Dunlop.
Oh, Dunlop.
I have
flats.
a deal. My artist deal with Dunlop strings.
Oh, that's right.
So yeah.
Donnie's got Dunlop strings. In the mix.
Yep. I got to get them by the box.
Everything. Can we assume that everything's got Dunlops?
Everything has Dunlops. Everything has Dunlop strings.
That's
I got to
really
order
cool.
by the box to get the artist deal.
Okay.
So my orders are like $400 or $500, but that could last me almost a year because as many bases as I have to keep. You know how it is, keeping them fresh, especially round wounds.
Especially round wounds, they kind of need to be. They kind of need those overtones.
Yeah, and then they get dead and they lose something or they gain something. You can look at it. There's something about dead round wound strings that are not bad, but there's nothing like the zing of a round wound that's new.
For years and years, that's all I wanted to hear was that new bass string sound, and I would boil my strings. I'd boil them, and then at some point, somebody told me about denatured alcohol. You can soak your strings in denatured alcohol.
Okay. Yeah.
Just I think a few hours or overnight or something, and then you take them out and boom, they're good to go. You don't have to heat them up to those high temperatures, and you don't have to put them in contact with water.
That's a good thing.
Those are two positive things. I do notice that they do kind of have a little funny residue on them, but it totally works.
But the sound comes back.
Sorry, string companies.
Yeah.
Gotta use.
But why do we boil strings and use the alcohol? Because they cost a lot of money.
Not everybody's got a Dunlop string deal.
Well, but that was part of the reason for me to obtain the deal. Was like, I go through a lot of strings. And a couple of my buddies in the industry said, man, why don't you just try to get a deal with somebody that does strings? And I started doing the investigating, did the NAMM show a few years. And then I obtained some Dunlops from one of my buddies, and I said, "Hey, I like the consistency, I like the feel, the tone," and I pursued the deal with Dunlop, which is also Seymour Duncan and MXR. They're the parent companies, and a buddy of let me see, Daryl Landers is my contact in California, but it was a friend of mine, Chip Shearing. He's the one that put me in contact with Daryl to say, hey, Daryl, bring Donny into the family, and he did.
Wow! Shout out to those guys.
Oh yeah, Chip, how you doing, man? If you ever see this, Chip had a bad automobile accident, and he's recovering well. And Chip did the bass on Rapper's Delight.
No kidding.
Oh, it was Chip. He did that. He's in the Hall of Fame. Wow. The one in Cleveland. But anyway, so yeah, strings. It's part of what we do.
Part of what we do, and I, depending on how well you know Donny's style, once he starts slapping and really tickling those strings, you could see how having clean bass strings would work for your style.
Right, or fresh.
And just
fresher, yeah.
Just that clean, that where you can hear everything.
Just sizzle through, man. It just cuts through. It's yeah. But on the other hand, like we talked about the flat wound string, a little bit more thuddier, but there's a certain presence that the round wound strings don't do. You already know that. Yeah. And you bass players know the same thing too. So
yeah, and here's another bass. We should acknowledge this baby. Mm-hmm. This 5-string P.
Yeah.
What's the story behind this one? You thought you needed a P. You thought you needed a 5.
When I do sessions, everybody want a lot of engineers. If they've been doing it for a while, they're accustomed to Fender basses. John Wagner did a lot of recordings with him in the 90s and 2000s. It was like, play that bass because it was a Fender. Okay, so and that you bass community people know that this is a sort of a one-trick pony with one pickup and a tone and a volume. But for me, it was having the extra range of the B string when I felt I needed it. So it's basically a P bass, obviously a 4-string, but with another string.
With a string
for added range.
I think about my 5-string in the same way. I think about playing because I play upright, and so with upright, it's not a 5-string upright. It's a regular 4-string upright, and so half of my life or 2/3 of my life, depending on what year, is on the acoustic bass. And so when I get my 5-string, I'm like, wow, I have all these choices. But I was doing a session the other day, and I saved the low D for the very last note of the song.
There you go, man. But that made the end.
Made the end.
That's the end, that low D, man.
But I didn't wear it out the whole time.
Right.
Just because you can play in that super low register doesn't mean you should all the time.
That I can tell you, Justin, I've heard some fellow bassists out there that have a tendency to ride the B string a little too much, in my opinion. And it's easy to do when you have a 5-string, but I think you and I see the 5-banger as just an extension of the 4. The 5 more notes that you get.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
But it is about the feel. This has a big neck on it, but I kind of like that. I got space. It's a wide neck.
Nice physical bass.
Yeah, and this is not a hot rod. This is a bread and butter one.
Yeah,
like country gig or something like that.
Nice round wounds on
there.
Yeah,
the Dunlops. Yeah. So yeah.
Oh, it's wonderful.
Crazy stuff that only we know about.
There's some other basses around here lurking behind me.
Oh my God.
Let's take a look at some of those.
Sure.
Let me put this one back.
Yeah, you pick one you want.
Let's see here.
Which one do you want to go with?
Oh, they're both 5-strings, a Lakeland and a Smith.
Yep.
And you have relationship with both these companies?
Yeah, my first endorsement deal was Ken Smith.
Really?
Yeah. In 2001. And yeah, again another crazy. My first artist deal, Justin, was
Yeah.
Ken Smith,
Hmm.
and I had always liked the sound of Ken Smith basses. I had been hearing them for years. I didn't know what they were. Uh, um, Ready Freddie Washington, Al Turner, a lot of the work they did on Anita Baker. Some of the gospel guys were using. I was hearing a certain sound
Yeah.
that I said, "What is that?" It's not a Fender, and of
Hmm.
course, there's no YouTube back then,
This is
or
before
just
the
be
information
before it.
age.
Yeah, I did my investigation, Bass Player Magazine, whatever, and found out that it was Ken Smith basses that were making that sound. And I said, "Well, I gotta get me a Ken Smith," and then I found out how much they were. And I'm going, well, maybe I'm not going to get a Ken Smith bass anytime soon. So, how that happened is through a series of craziness. This bass behind me, that 75 jazz bass, and four others got stolen. Got my house
Mm.
broken into
Your house broken into.
in 2000.
Oh gosh.
They stole five of them.
Five
That
bases.
bass, a Stingray 5, an Ibanez 6 string, a 69 jazz bass, and a 77 Music Man. Talk about
That's
talk
a
about the worst thing in my life almost.
that's a heartbreaking
It was
pull.
heartbreaking, man. And thank goodness I had insurance. So the with the insurance monies, I had some money. Of course, I had to replace other stuff, and they never give you what the value of your instruments are.
Mm.
They don't. Like a prized vintage guitar,
Mm.
they're gonna go by the book. Well, this a jazz bass is only worth $500, whatever. All I know is I did have a little bit of extra money, and I contacted Ken Smith just to see if I had a shot at getting a deal, an artist deal. And this is through email. At least it was some form of the digital age. Emailed him. This would have been 2000, and he one day I was working at a car rental agency. I was managing a rental agency and playing at the same time. I was younger back then. My body could do it. And Ken Smith calls me at the deal at the car place, and I'm at work, and he says, "Is this Donny Tesso?" And make a long story short, we talked, and we talked some things out. And he says, "Well, you can be one of my artists. I just need you to do a few things for me. Blah blah blah. I'll give you a discount on the bass." Next thing you know, I had a great price on this. Based, it was like 60% off, bro.
That's how a lot of these
Yeah,
deals work. I
yeah. I wasn't gonna afford 4 grand.
yeah.
This was 4 grand at the time, and now they're like 6 grand. Anyway, so I had a great deal. He sent it to me. You know, oh geez, I keep on hitting this. Put my name on the website, and in turn, that was my help from him. From him was he lists me on the website as one of his artists, and that was my first endorsement deal. And I still have it, and it's probably a keeper because nothing sounds or plays like it. So I've recorded a Will Donato. I'm not sure if you know who he is. I recorded one of his songs in his last album, and I used this bass because I wanted to sound a little different than
Mhm.
the typical jazz bass or
Yeah.
P bass. So there's a lot of reasons we do what we do, but
Yeah.
this was a tragedy that had to happen that I was able to do this.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to show the back of it. It's
yeah,
so
sure,
pretty.
sure, yeah.
It's really,
And it's a bolt on.
really
He makes the
lovely.
neck throughs, but I wanted a bolt on.
Really
I
lovely.
I think a bolt on has a little bit more percussive
Have more
to it.
percussion, a little less
Yeah,
sustain, but
yeah, yeah. In a good
it's
way.
in a good way.
Yeah.
Some people argue that five strings don't sound as good as four strings for
Mm,
that exact reason.
right. Uh-huh.
How do you feel about that?
That bass is perfect. I would challenge any bass player that says that's not going to sound that B string is going to sound good. No, that sounds like the other strings.
Hmm.
Yeah, it is a piece of work. It's an
Hmm.
art, piece of art. But I think that some five-string basses, the B string could be kind of floppy and kind of muddy, but that one isn't. That one's all the strings sound the same.
Mm-hmm.
It's the craftsmanship, I think.
Yeah.
This has a little bit more of a thud to it because it's not $5,000 bass. It's a $2,000 bass. So
Mm-hmm.
my thoughts on that are just that. I
Mm-hmm.
think it based on the bass itself, your B string is going to be good or bad based on the bass. This is a 34-inch scale. People say, well, it has to be a 35-inch scale. No, this is a 34-inch scale, and the B sounds great. It's not floppy. It's wonderful. Just like that Lakeland back there. That's a 35-inch.
Let's check out the Lakeland.
That's a 35-inch, but I didn't get it because it's got a 35-inch scale. I got it because that is a super versatile bass.
Oh, this thing is incredible.
Yeah, and that's got the
weight, the balance. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's a USA 5594.
Oh, it's beautiful. Bartolini pickups.
It's from 1999 when they were doing Bartolini. They don't do them anymore.
Oh wow!
It's got the bird's eye maple, the quilt.
Yeah.
It's a 35-inch scale. This B is insane. Yeah, one of these days you should take it for test drive. Then you're gonna want it.
I don't know if I'd be able to.
But I like this bass because it comes to the studio because I've got a super variety. I can go to a jazz bass if I want. I can go to a Music Man sounding bass. I can solo the single coil in front for a P bass type sound.
Yeah.
I've got passive active. I got 3 bands of EQ. I got coil tap. This is probably the most versatile bass I have. Mm-hmm. If I want to go into the studio with one bass, I would probably bring this because it does different sounds if I need it. Mm. So yeah, and it feels great. Balances. It's a USA. It's not cheap. But I have a deal with Lakeland.
Yeah.
Lakeland is that was my second endorsement deal was Lakeland Basses in Chicago.
Wow. So, what an honor to have those endorsements. Yeah. That's really wonderful. Let's talk more about your endorsements and some of the wonderful companies.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't expect you to remember every single company.
I'll try.
But I mean, you've got Juicy Ears.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are the in-ear monitor things that I use all the time. I think a lot of these people probably see my social media posts when I got those things hanging. Oops, I keep on doing this.
In-ear monitors. A lot of people call them IEMs.
Yeah, which
you see IEMs. I'm like, what's IEM?
In-ear monitors.
In-ear monitors.
Well, speaking of this company, they're fairly new. Juicy Ears is fairly new, but I know the man behind Juicy Ears. When I met him 10 years ago at the NAMM show, he didn't even have this. This wasn't even a concept. But to make the long story short, is when I found out about this company and then found out it was Hugo Sanchez in L.A. and I said, I know that guy. Contacted him. He sends me these, and they're 5 drivers. They're comfortable. They sound great, Justin. My basses sound good. These are like bass player IEMs, but a lot of people don't use in-ear monitors. I think you probably don't use them very much, but
occasionally
I use them as much as I can because I feel I get what I will need to hear. I can control the band with my device, with my iPad. I need to hear more kick drum. I can't hear the guy on that side. I need more keyboards. It's for me to do my job better. I want to hear stuff. I don't want to rely on those floor monitors squealing, and if I move away from the monitor, I can't hear. So I got to stay there. With these, I can go all over the place. I get the same sound, But again, it's a learning curve to use these all the time. I rely on them, and this Juicy Ears. Thank you, Juicy Ears, yeah. Hugo Sanchez, and
shout out. Thank you,
Laura Williams of the Artist Relations. That's one of the artist deals that I have. Yeah,
mm-hmm. Yeah.
We mentioned Lakeland,
Yeah, Lakeland, and I see a bass amp over there.
Oh yes,
Gensler. Oh, that's incredible. Can I see it?
Yeah, Jeff Gensler.
I want to hold it.
Yeah. It's lightweight, does the sound I need, man.
Yeah.
It does everything. And when Gensler used to be Gens Benz.
Okay.
Yeah. So
a lot of people know that name.
I think they'll know that name and they'll go, what is this? This is more like boutique now, I guess you want to call it, but it's the same guy that built all the amps for Gens Benz. and I had an artist deal with Benz back in maybe late 2000s, and Fender bought Benz, and they what's that clause where for 5 years you can't compete with Fender after they bought your company. So he let that 5 year, or maybe it was 10 years. I don't know how long it was. And then after that expired, that clause, he built his own. He went to another built his own company. And
fascinating.
So I was already with Jeff then, Gensler, and I contacted him and said, "Hey man, let's bring me into the family." He said, "Yeah, what do you want?" And I told him I want the lightest weight, smallest one, fits in the little bag.
That's right.
Does the job I need. I don't need 800,000 watts. This is 350.
Working guys like us, a lot of times you might walk into a situation where there's a back line or someone setting up gear for you, but a lot of times you might be setting up your own stuff, and a lot of these Class D digital power amp section type bass amps have been kind of a game changer for us. You know, it like used to be a pound per watt. Back in the day.
Yes, and that's very close.
Heavy, fragile.
I've been there, bro.
Banging around your giant amp, and these days you can get something that's great. Maybe a sweet preamp. That sounds good.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. Sound good. Fits where in your gig bag. I mean, that may not fit in a gig bag.
Oh yeah, you could fit this in a gig bag.
Depends on the pocket size, but
sure. Yeah.
I take it everywhere I go, man. I mean, it's enough power. I don't need 800 watt or an SVT or This does the job. I like the tone that it offers me. The Magellan 350. Thank you, Jeff Gensler, sir.
Yeah,
and the cabinets that he makes. Oh my God, I didn't want to bring that. Good stuff, man.
Yeah,
but you got good stuff too.
Yeah,
you got good stuff. Your mark based.
You play what you have. You know, you play the gear that you have.
Right.
I mean,
it's got to sound good to you.
It's got to sound good enough.
right. No, and have enough power to cut through whatever. So yeah. Lakeland's been great with. I've been with them about 25 years, and they treat me good. I have another Lakeland bass. Anytime I need something from them, they've done it. I can call these people, Justin. That's the thing with the relationship. I can call Leo Lopez and say, "Hey, man, my something went out, or I need a pick guard or something." They do it for me. They do it for me.
Yeah.
And I think that's insane. Like Mr. Smith with the Ken Smith bass there, he's done. I sent that back to him. 20 years ago, when a friend of mine dropped it like this in the bag. Thank goodness, but it jarred the preamp. So I sent it back to him in Pennsylvania or wherever it is, and fixed it and brought it back to me. And it's been great ever since.
That's
the relationship. That was all free, if you want to call it.
Yeah.
Sukop, Steven Sukop with that piccolo bass there. But again, it's about relationships, Justin. It's not that Donny's trying to get all these endorsement deals. Well, the reasons for the endorsement deals are the relationships and the stuff I need. And by having an artist deal, it's allowed me to get some of the stuff less expensive. Not everything's free, even though I've got some stuff that was been free in the past. It's getting what I think I need to further what I do. Each bass has its own voice, and you already know that. You guys already know that. This sounds different. That sounds different. This one sounds different. I bring basses based on the gig or the session.
The session. Speaking of session, you also produce.
Yeah.
And I'd like to hear just a little bit about your experience and your approach to producing. Yeah.
Man, this is a long one. No, I mean, this is a long video. Sorry, everybody, because I'm that old.
If they're already here, they're cool with whatever we want to talk about.
So.
I think
I'm not trying to bore you guys, but it's a great question.
Donny's got a lot going on.
A lot of years.
Needed a couple of episodes for this.
Yeah, probably, but let's try to make this one not so boring.
Yeah.
The producing part, Justin, I think us bass players make great producers. And I think the reason for that is I think we kind of know where everything goes. Right? Think about it. We got to work with the drums. We respond to the singing. Is there an opening for me to do a little fill? The guitar player is stroking like this. Maybe I should stay away from that rhythm. Maybe I should do a counter rhythm, or maybe I should match it. Do I match the kick drum pattern exactly, or do I kind of like enhance it? Strings, where could that fit? I just think I've been a producer sort of all my life. Maybe it's because I've been doing it for so long, but when I got into it, people started asking me to help them with their songs, and I started doing it. I like it. I like taking somebody's demo of a guitar and a guy singing and making a song out of it, or trying to help them make a song out of what they're trying. I don't want them to sound like me, but I want them to sound better than what they would think of, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
And I think that's my approach to producing. The stuff I've done here at Folklore that I'm doing is just that. I mean, I'm taking raw, original material and trying to make it the best for the artists. That's why I was called to do that, and I hope I'm doing that, and I enjoy it. I like it. I don't know, something about it. Taking somebody's song and trying to make it better in my interpretation. Are they going to trust me? But most of the time, we're glad you did what you did.
It does take a lot of trust, but we're really good at that, because
I think so.
When we show up on the gig, we have to establish trust like in the first song. Yeah, you might.
Great analogy.
You might. Someone might be having a hard night, or it might be someone that even, but you still have to establish trust on the bandstand, and the simpler and the better you can do that, probably, that
well,
you have to have
that
trust
goes along the line of trust. I think you and I have learned our role, and I want to make any musical situation I'm in, whether it's a studio or any band the bands that I have made, or if I get hired to play for somebody or replace somebody, I want to make that the best experience for all involved as possible. I think the bass player makes the band. And some people say, "What's the drummer? The beat." And I'm going, "Yeah, but you dance and you bob your head to me and Justin." I really think that we're the melodic drummer. God, I keep on hitting your mic. I'm sorry. So yeah, bass players make good producers. I think.
Yeah.
We know where things go. We know how to fit in like your situation when you're playing with Felix. I think you know your role. You know where you can go off a little bit, and you know where I got to stay right here.
Mm-hmm.
You know that. You just know that. Or he'll tell you, "Hey, don't ever do that again." And then you learn from that. That's how I learned not to do some things. Thinking I can do that. Oh, no, that takes away from the singer. Don't do that. That might distract him. And then I go, maybe they're right. Learning. Over the years, learning things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was about the production. Yeah, producing. That was producing.
Yeah.
I love doing it. I love doing it. I will do it more. I think I can help. I think I can help a lot of you out there with any project, whether it be a metal project, a country, a Latin thing, R&B, maybe jazzy stuff. I think I can help with their production, make their songs better.
Yeah. And all of those years of experience that you have, and all of those situations that you've been in, and that we've all learned from, is priceless.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad that you're producing. That's really exciting.
I love it, man. I love it. I'll do it as much as I can, and maybe I'll do that when I eventually retire from playing bass.
Oh, how could you retire from playing
I don't know. I
bass?
probably financially I can't. I got to keep playing, man. I got to keep
Yeah.
playing. But no, it's just another facet of what I do, and like teaching bass instruction. I call myself a coach. I don't see myself as a teacher, instructor. I see myself as a bass coach, if that makes any sense. I enjoy that part of my life too, man. Taking a young kid, and seeing him up there, or taking an old veteran and get a text from him and say, "Hey, man, I tried what we did last night, and the band loved it." I mean, things like that, bro, are just makes me feel good, bro. Like mission accomplished. I'm not gonna show somebody how to tap and do all the fancy stuff you do, but I'm gonna help people in the real world, if that makes any sense. I think that my base approach is the real world, not YouTube sensations and all the fancy stuff that you see in here.
Yeah.
Um, you know,
Yeah, music is a conversation. It's really hard to drop in on these these little YouTube shorts because
right. They're fantastic. They're amazing.
It's
man.
amazing, but it's almost like, here's what's going on now. This is happening, and blah 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 blah, and then it's over, and you're like, okay,
And then you end up feeling like, oh my. Then you go like Pac-Man. You go like, I'll never play like that 11-year-old boy just did. I think that's YouTube has kind of put pressure on us bass players, but it's not. No, don't think that way. Play bass.
Yeah.
You don't. Bassnastics is for YouTube.
Yeah, and music is a conversation. How many conversations are worth having that are 20 seconds long? Right. I mean, maybe there's.
Yeah. Well, how many sessions have you done where they say, I want you to tap right here and slap 16ths for 16 bar? No, you get hired because you know the song, you're going to play the song. I get hired for that. I get hired because I think they trust me. I'm going to play what needs to be played. But I'm not going to get hired for bassnastics.
I think that both of us have something in common, which is that we really both play for the song. And I think, some of the best players think that way too. And
I think so too.
I try to stay open artistically, and
you do
not play predictable stuff, but sometimes the best thing for the song is just half notes and quarter notes. I mean, you just never know. It's really playing for the song is our ultimate job.
Absolutely, bro. And I think we're in control of that destiny of the song. It's the bass that's gonna make it. I mean, you take the bass out of any song, and what do you have? When you can do that these days with AI and all that. Pull the bass out of a Beatles song, and it's not the same, man, or a Motown song, or whatever. It's the bass is the SHIT. Oh, I can't say that. The bass is the no. It's we make the song. All you bass players out there, I'm telling you, we make the song, and we make your band better. That's a promise. I think that's our responsibility, man. Let's make this unit the best it could be. I think it falls on us.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Speaking of making the band better, what bands are you making better right now? What's going on?
Well, nobody's calling me. No, I'm just kidding. I've got I juggle 3 bands that I made, handpicked, if you want to call it. Animated Jukebox, which is a variety band, corporate. We do all that stuff. We do the top 800. There's a little offshoot of Animated Jukebox called Donny and Company, and we're a little bit smaller unit, but we're more grown-up music, if that makes any sense. Okay. Little jazzy, little R&B, old school,
a little more seasoned.
Yeah, taste. That not as loud, if you want to call it.
Yeah.
And then I have a country band, Plain Jane, which is, we're working this weekend at the Downs Casino coming up, which is country. Well, we mix in a little bit of other stuff too, like we'll throw a Bruno Mars or something in there, or a Spanish song if they want it. That's just the three bands that I would maintain started. Um, but gosh, man, I work with so many other people, Justin. On a call, Gonzalo, one of the New Mexico music artists, work with him fairly often. I got a gig with him on the 15th. It's a video shoot and a recording.
A video shoot.
Yeah, so I said, hey, would you play bass? I'm going, well, you play bass. I said, well, I want you to play bass so I can concentrate on singing. And I kind of go, it makes sense. It makes sense. So, I think I was telling you about some charts I'm looking at earlier this morning. It's for a fundraiser. Tom Grego puts together this nice kind of a romantic music, kind of Andre Botticelli meets Frank Sinatra meets. He does this every year. It's a fundraiser for one of the churches. I think it's the Our Lady of Assumption, and he hires me each year. So it's taking the gigs as they come, and I don't turn a gig down. Mm-hmm. I don't think I can't remember the last time I said I couldn't do something unless I was busy.
Yeah. Can I take a look at this one?
And I've worked with a lot of the country people, and God, my tenure with the late Al Hurricane, was awesome. But I worked with Al Hurricane Jr. I did a gig with him, gosh, just a couple months ago. It's again, whoever calls me to help him, I'll help him. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's epic. Al Hurricane and Al Hurricane Jr.
Yeah.
I mean, you just roll them off like it's no big deal, but
that was
those guys are musical royalty.
Al, I think Al Sr., rest his soul, was huge in my career, moving here in '88, joining his band that same year. It was destiny, man. I don't know what you want to call it other than destiny, getting hired by him. The story of getting hired, I have to tell it. I please let me do this because it's a great story. When I moved here in the winter of '88, I get a call from Al Hurricane, and I kind of didn't know who it was. Now, here I am in New Mexico, and he's already the godfather of New Mexico music. I get a call from him at a buddy's place where I was staying when I moved from Vegas. The family stayed in Vegas, and I was going to come out here, for a couple months, get some money, move the family out. So I stayed with my friend here. Thank goodness he lent me his, put me up at his house while I was working and trying to make money to bring the family. So I get a call from Al Hurricane because somebody had saw me at a jam session. I can't remember what place it was, a few weeks prior. So he calls me, hey, is this Donny Tesso? I'm going, yeah. You're the guy from Las Vegas? Yeah. Well, he was looking for somebody to play for his nephew, who is Lorenzo Antonio. He was a big star, pop star then, had a #1 hit and everything. They were looking for a bass player for that spring to do some shows in Chicago and Frisco, maybe Dallas. So he says, can you come over Friday and audition? Do you want to? And I said, well, yeah. Part of me was going like, who is, I think I know the name. Anyway, so I go to knock on Al's door the Friday night. Sure enough, man, he answers the door, and then I see this guy with a wig, an obvious wig and a patch, that signature Al Hurricane look. And I'm going, oh my God, what am I in for here? What's going on here? Just come on over here, bro. Come on in. Go through his house, go to his office. I had my Music Man Stingray that got stolen. I had that with me. And go to his office, and I'm kind of going, what's going on here? I'm an audition. I don't know what songs am I going to play. It's just me and him. He gets a phone call, and he says, excuse me. He's talking to like some woman.
This is a landline.
Yeah, a landline.
Landline. If you
a little ring, and Hey, oh, hey, yeah, yeah, yeah. How about 9 o'clock? And he's making plans for a date or something. So I take my bass out of the case, and just like I'm playing it like this, and he Al puts the phone like he goes like this. Hey, bro, you're hired. And then starts talking to the girl, and I was hired, and I didn't even plug in the bass. He heard me play a few things just without plugging in, and told me I was hired. So I got the gig with that spring with Lorenzo and Tony. We did those dates. That summer, his bass player, God, I can't remember the gentleman's name. He for like 20 years quits, and Al asked me to join. That was June of '88, and I stayed with Al for 7 years after that.
Wow.
So it was kind of a crazy story, but Al opened a lot of doors for me because he was already the king of New Mexico, whatever,
Yeah.
And it opened a lot of doors for me, gave me a lot of exposure, did a lot of his records, and I think that led to what I do now.
Well, it all happens for a reason, and you're a bright shining star.
I hope so, man. I hope so.
You're a bright shining star in the world of bass, and in the world of contemporary jazz, in the world of New Mexico music, and in the world of everything, producing. You said any style,
teaching.
Coaching.
I mean, it's all, but it's all bass related. This is the bass lab, what we're talking about, but it's what we do. I've just have been doing it longer than most people because I'm old enough that but I also pushed as many boundaries as possible, pushed as many envelopes as possible, studied as much as possible. I got books. The Slowinsky, what's that Slowinsky method? Oh gosh, you know what it is. I've got so many books that I wanted to know if I'm going to teach bass. I want to know what a tritone substitution is. I want to know what a half diminished scale is. I want to know what a Dorian mode is. Because if I'm going to teach it, I got to know it. So, but during exploring all these avenues, I gained more experience for myself. It's crazy.
That's how it works. It's kind of the one area of music is connected to another area of music, and somehow in your brain it connects. For a number of years, I would transcribe music for singers, for money. Here, sure, I'll write a chart out for you.
Right.
And I transcribed so much music that
you learned from it.
I learned from it.
Right. Whatever it is, certain things singers do, certain range on the staff where singers are at. I don't know if you did harmonies, how to stack a harmony. You learned from it, and it was not necessarily bass related.
Yeah, but music related.
But music related.
Related.
Yeah, learning the Nashville system is, it's all numbers.
Oh, okay, yeah. Nashville system.
Yeah, that's all numbers. Look at what it says E flat, but we're going to do it in E now.
Yeah.
Instead of writing a whole chart, I just use the numbers.
Yeah.
Because I can do that song in any key with any artist, just based on the numbers. I mean, that's
That's great.
That's how I chart stuff, because I don't have time to transcribe, and plus I probably can't it would take me a whole day to transcribe one thing. Where for you go, oh, okay, I'm not that good.
I started using Sibelius on the iPad.
That's a great program,
which is pretty good. I get to hook up my MIDI controller to it, and
you're right. That helps us along the way and prints it out real nice,
interface.
But you and I know people that'll just get a piece of staff paper and start transcribing that way, man. That's old fashioned. That I admire that, bro.
I admire it too, and I've gone back and forth between doing transcribing by pencil.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't copy and paste. You get good enough on a computer, you can go faster.
Right. Yeah. Why do it the old-fashioned way if you have the opportunity to do it right there?
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
It just depends on what you have. You got to use what you have. If you have a computer, great. If you don't have a computer, great. Use paper, pencil and paper.
Right. Right. Or even if you're learning for an audition. I had one of my students was auditioning for a band, and they gave him 10 songs. So we looked at those 10 songs, and I said, well, are you going to try to remember all 10? He's a young guy. He probably could. I can't remember nothing. And what are we talking about? Anyway, uh, I said, you need to make notes of these songs. How are you going to remember all 10? And they were like different songs. There was like a rock song, there was a country song, there was like a ballad, there was like an old, like Brick House or something like that. It was a pretty crazy list of songs for his audition. And I recommended that he make notes, even if you got to put it on the floor when you're auditioning, or whatever. Put it right there in front of you so you don't screw up. And he got the audition, by the way.
Oh, good.
So he's in the band now. But it's what we do.
It's what we do.
Bass players.
It's what we do. My musical friend, Donny.
Man, thank you, bro. Thank you so much, man.
We're in the band now.
Great hang, bro. Great hang. I admire what you do. Thanks to the Bass Lab. Jessica, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, baby.
I hope that people get something out of it, and take something home. Thanks, Lance, for the Folklore recording studios here.
Folklore recording studio.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Great. You guys got to come here and experience this SSL board. Lance knows how to do it. It's a great place. I just love the studio, man. I could be a studio rat. I could sleep on that couch. But thank you, man. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Once again, thank you, Donny. All right.
Thank y'all. We'll see you next time.
Okay.
Okay, be good.
Hey, Brother Donny, I can't believe it. Inducted into the New Mexico Music Hall of Fame. Congratulations, Nate East here. And I want everybody in the room tonight to really be nice to you, okay? And then, no, but congratulations. God bless you, brother. And nobody deserves it more. I want to be like you when I grow up. All right, God bless. Congrats.